What if the person you think you are doesn't exist? Not in the way you've always believed, not the name, not the story, not the personality you've been carrying around like a badge. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people live their entire lives defending an identity that was never real to begin with. They suffer, struggle, and stress, all for a character they didn't even choose. And the wildest part? The moment you start to question this you, something powerful awakens. Something ancient, something silent. That's when things get weird, in the best possible way, because you'll start to feel a presence that's been with you your entire life, but you've never truly met it. A pure awareness that sees through the lies of ego, beyond the false identity, straight into the raw truth of consciousness itself. It doesn't matter if you're spiritual, skeptical, or somewhere in between. This realization hits everyone the same way, like waking up from a dream you didn't know you were having. So buckle up, because what you're about to discover isn't just another idea. It's the greatest realization you'll ever make. And once you see it, there's no going back. 1. The illusion of the separate self. Most people go through life believing they're this fixed identity, this name, this story, this body. They build their entire existence on this belief without ever stopping to ask, who told me I'm this person? That's where the illusion of separation begins. You see yourself as a fragment cut off from everything else. But this false identity isn't real. It's a mask you inherited from your environment, shaped by conditioning, not truth. Imagine a wave thinking it's separate from the ocean. It's moving, rising, falling, but always water. That's exactly how the ego illusion tricks you. It convinces you that you're an isolated you, struggling in a world that's outside of you. But the moment you begin to question that belief, something shifts. You start to see that this sense of separation is just a mental story on repeat. It's not reality, it's just noise in your consciousness. This illusion of a separate self is what causes suffering. You feel anxious because you're trying to protect something that doesn't truly exist. Your image, your reputation, your story. But none of these are who you really are. The more you defend them, the more trapped you feel. And here's the wild part. The moment you stop defending yourself, real freedom begins. That's when pure awareness starts to shine through. One practical way to loosen this illusion is through a simple awareness practice. Sit quietly for 5 minutes and watch your thoughts come and go without reacting. Just watch. No judging, no chasing. You'll start to notice a strange gap, a silent presence behind the thoughts. That's not your ego talking, that's you, the real you, before the name, before the story. And if you keep following that silence, you'll run straight into the next trap, the ego itself. 2. How the ego hijacked your identity. The ego didn't arrive with a loud bang. It slipped in quietly, like a squatter moving into your mind while you were still learning how to speak. Over time, it claimed everything as mine. My name, my body, my job, my beliefs. It built a false identity and convinced you that this construction was who you are. But it's not. It's just a role. And roles can be dropped. What the ego fears most is you realizing that it has no real power once you stop identifying with it. This false identity thrives on comparison and separation. If someone has more than you feel less. If someone praises you, you feel worthy. But none of this touches your true being. It only feeds the character you're playing. Think of it like being in a costume at a party. You can enjoy the role, but forget you're wearing a mask, and you'll panic when someone tries to take it off. That's how ego keeps you trapped, by convincing you the mask is your face. There's a reason the ego resists spiritual awakening. It knows that if you wake up, its control is over. That's why it whispers things like, "You're not ready, this is too weird," or "What will people think?" But those are just thoughts. It's not consciousness speaking. One simple way to expose the ego is to ask yourself, who is thinking this thought? Then wait. Don't rush for an answer. Just sit in the space after the question. That silence is pure awareness beginning to pierce through. Another way ego shows up is through defensiveness. The next time someone criticizes you, instead of reacting, pause. Observe the inner flare-up. That discomfort, that's the ego defending its little kingdom. But you're not that kingdom. You're the space it happens in. And once you get a taste of that space, you'll begin to notice something strange. There's a quiet observer behind it all. And that's where we're headed next. 3. The observer, the real you beyond thought. There's something in you that's never changed. Think about it. Your body has changed, your opinions have changed, your relationships have come and gone, but there's always been this quiet presence in the background, watching it all unfold. That's the observer. It's not emotional, not judgmental, not personal. It just sees, and that seeing is the doorway out of the ego illusion and into pure awareness. The mind likes to take credit for everything. But have you noticed you can watch your thoughts the same way you'd watch traffic from a balcony? You're not the traffic. You're not even in it. You're the one seeing it all go by. That observer has no story, no personality, no agenda. It simply is. And here's the shocker. It's not limited to your body or mind. It's the same awareness looking out of every set of eyes. A good way to connect with the observer is to pause in the middle of any daily activity and ask, who is aware of this moment? You'll feel something shift. Maybe it's subtle at first, but it's there. Like stepping back into a larger space. You'll begin to sense that your thoughts aren't you, they're just passing weather in the sky of your consciousness. And the sky, untouched, silent, free. The observer doesn't need to fix anything. It doesn't care about being right or successful or impressive. It just watches, and in that watching, healing starts. It's not passive, it's powerful, because when you stop fueling the ego stories, the false identity begins to dissolve on its own, and with that, something even deeper starts to reveal itself, the realization that the voice in your head was never really you. 4. You're not the voice in your head, and never were. That voice in your head, the one narrating your life, arguing in imaginary conversations, rehearsing what you'll say next, it's not you. It talks non-stop. But when you really listen, you'll realize something wild. It never shuts up because it's terrified of being seen for what it is, just noise. The ego illusion depends on you mistaking that mental chatter for your real identity. But once you notice the voice, you're no longer fully lost in it. Most people never question that inner dialogue. They wake up and immediately start thinking, then think all day and go to sleep still caught in thought. But what happens if you sit down and just listen? Try this. Close your eyes for 1 minute and do nothing but listen to the thoughts. Watch them rise. Then ask, who's hearing all this? That moment of pause is powerful. That's consciousness waking up to itself. It's like watching a movie for so long that you forget you're in a theater. The voice in your head is the movie, but the one who hears it, the observer, is seated quietly in the back, untouched. And when you reconnect with that part of yourself, things begin to feel lighter. You realize you don't have to believe every thought. You don't have to obey every mental command. You can just let it all pass like background music in a cafe. One of the best practices to anchor this realization is journaling, but not your typical Dear Diary kind of journaling. Try this instead. Write down the thoughts that repeat often, especially the negative ones, and then write, "This is not me. This is just mental noise." That simple act begins to separate your sense of self from the voice. And in that gap, your real identity begins to surface. Not the mask, not the character, but something deeper, something hidden beneath all the labels. 5. Memory, labels, and the fiction of personality. From the moment you're born, people start labeling you. He's shy, she's smart, you're just like your father. And before you know it, you start to live inside those labels like a cage. But who were you before anyone told you who you were? That's a question most never dare to ask, because if you're not your personality, your habits, or your past, then who are you really? This is where the false identity starts to crumble. Memory is tricky. It doesn't just store the past, it rewrites it. The stories you tell about yourself aren't facts. They're interpretations filtered through emotion and repetition. I'm not good at relationships. I always mess things up. Are those true? Or are they just grooves worn into your mind by years of repetition? These beliefs aren't rooted in pure awareness. They're mental habits dressed up as truth, and they're optional. Try this out next time you're feeling stuck in an old pattern. Ask yourself, what if this story I'm telling isn't true anymore? Don't try to force an answer. Just hold the question. You might be surprised how quickly the mind loosens its grip. The personality wants consistency, even if it's painful. But consciousness is fluid, open, limitless. You're not a fixed character in a script. You're the blank page the story is written on. You weren't born with a personality. You picked it up, like clothes passed down from others. And most of what you call you is just a bundle of conditioned responses. But the moment you stop clinging to the script, a new sense of self begins to emerge. Not a better personality, not a higher version of your ego, but something wordless, something that speaks only in silence. And silence has a lot to say. 6. Silence, where the real you begins to emerge. Silence isn't just the absence of noise, it's the space where truth begins to echo. Most people run from it because silence exposes what the mind's been trying to cover up. But if you sit with it long enough, something incredible happens. You start to notice that behind all the thoughts, fears, and memories, there's just being. No mask, no performance, just pure awareness, watching it all without saying a word. The ego hates silence because it can't survive there. It thrives on mental noise, plans, worries, drama, identity maintenance. But when you step into stillness, the ego illusion starts to fade. It's like turning off a loud radio and realizing there's been a peaceful hum in the room the whole time. That hum, that's consciousness, and it's been patiently waiting for you to notice it. Start small. Take 5 minutes each morning and just listen to the silence around you. Don't try to meditate or do anything. Just be still. You'll begin to feel something subtle but powerful. A return to center. You might even feel more yourself in those 5 minutes than you do all day. That's no coincidence. It's because the self you're returning to was never really lost, just drowned out by noise. In silence, things begin to reorder. You realize you don't need to prove anything or be anything. You already are. And the funny thing is, once you start tasting that inner space, you'll crave it more than scrolling or stimulation. Not because it gives you something, but because it takes away what you're not. And once that noise fades, what remains is something so simple and profound. It doesn't even need a name. 7. Awareness is all that exists, and it has no name. Strip away every belief, every memory, every label, and what's left? Just awareness. Not your awareness, not someone's awareness, just awareness itself. It doesn't belong to anyone. It can't be owned, described, or put in a box. It's the only thing that never changes, never comes and goes. Everything else, thoughts, emotions, the body, rises and falls inside it. But awareness, it just is. Think about it. Even when you're sleeping, there's something that notices dreams. Even when you're lost in thought, there's something behind it all, quietly present. That's pure awareness. And here's the twist. It's not personal. It's not you in the way the ego wants it to be. It's not limited to your mind or your history. It's the same field of being that animates everyone and everything. It has no edges. It has no name. People spend years chasing enlightenment as if it's a thing to get. But the truth is, you're not supposed to become anything. You're supposed to remember what you already are, and what you are can't be spoken. The moment you try to define it, you've already stepped into the mind again. Awareness can only be experienced, and when you taste it fully, even for a second, it changes everything. Because now you know you were never the character in the dream. So the question is no longer, who am I? It becomes, what is this presence that's always here? Noticing it isn't some mystical trick, it's the most natural thing in the world. And once you've seen through the false identity, once the mask dissolves, you realize something staggering. The you thought existed never did. And that's not a loss. That's the doorway to real freedom. If you want to elevate your vibrations and manifest with more ease, I have prepared something special for you. Click the link in the first pinned comment and join us in the journey of awakening your inner mage.